Hi friends, Miss Hannah here. I have another fun story for us to read together this week. I bet that some of you guys have seen a movie based off of the book that we're going to read together today. It's called Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Give me a thumbs up if you've seen this movie or if you've already read this story before. Let's get started. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for orange juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we could each eat. And Grandpa was doing the flipping. Seconds later, something flew through the air and headed towards the kitchen ceiling and landed right on Henry. A pancake landed on him. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. At least the pancake didn't already have syrup on it, then he would be all sticky. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall tale bedtime story he had ever told. Across an ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts, and an even smaller ocean, there lay the town of Chew and Swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, a school, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. But there were no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain and it never snowed snow. It never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and peas. And sometimes the wind blew in clouds of hamburgers. The people could watch the weather report on the television in the morning, and they would hear a prediction for next day's food. When the townspeople were outside, they carried plates and cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way, they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, the people took them home and put them in their refrigerators in case they got hungry in between meals. Let's check out, see what their weather was like this day. Looks like it was raining pancakes. And then maybe raining orange juice. It looks like, she's chasing a chicken leg. And I think that this is a football game and they are stopped because it's raining pie. Whew, I would like for it to rain pie, I think. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was already coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny-side eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly rained down for the toast, and most of the time it rained milk afterwards. Look, even the birds and the squirrels are getting to eat the breakfast that rains down. For lunch one day, hot dogs, already in their rolls, blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby, and then the wind shifted and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by a gradual clearing, with a wonderful Jell-O setting in the west. Look at all that Jell-O. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove all of the food that fell on the houses and the sidewalks and the lawns. The workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the dogs and the cats, and then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and the turtles and the whales. But the rest of the food was put back into the earth so the soil would be richer for people's flower gardens. I don't know about you, but I've never seen a truck that has a giant fork and spoon and a plate to scrape things up with. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worse. So spaghetti ties up town. Record-breaking pasta fall causes chaos. One day, there was nothing but gorgonzola cheese. The next day, there was only broccoli, overcooked. And the next day, there were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter with mayonnaise. Another day, there was a pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going, and they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. What? Ooh, those do not sound very good. The food was getting bigger and bigger, and so were the portions. The people were getting frightened. Violent storms blew frequently. Awful things were happening. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. There were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seed, some without. There was white bread and rye and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen bread and rolls and toast before. It was terrible. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were damaged, and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was still full of floating rolls. You see all of the rolls, the bread in the sea? To help out, the people piled up as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds picked at it a bit, but mostly it just stayed there and got staler and staler. There was a storm of pancakes one morning, and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they just had to close the school. Look at those enormous pancakes, so big it covers a tree. Oh my goodness. It's a big old pancake. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a stomach ache. There was an awful salt and pepper wind, accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The whole town was a mess. There were seeds and pulp everywhere. I don't know about you, but it sounds like to me they need to get out of this crazy town. The sanitation department gave up. Their job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses had been badly damaged by giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up, and there was no more school. Let's see all of the things that it looks like it's rained down. Donuts. There's a hamburger up there. Those look like steaks maybe. And eggs. Another hamburger. Oh no, there's somebody stuck underneath that hamburger. It looks like pasta. Oh, a giant slice of pizza. Oh, they gotta do something about this. So a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. The people glued together giant pieces of stale bread, sandwiches and made them with peanut butter. They took only the absolute necessities with them and set sail on their rafts to a new land. They built them out of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Look, the sails are made out of pizza and cheese. Can you see that? After being afloat for a whole week, they finally reached a small coastal town which welcomed them. The bread held up surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary houses for themselves out of it. The children began school again, and the adults tried to find places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at the supermarket. They found it odd that the food was kept on shelves and packaged in boxes and cans and bottles. Meat had to be cooked, and you had to keep it in the fridge. Nothing came down from the sky except normal rain and snow. The clouds above their heads weren't made of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again. And nobody dared to go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what had happened to Do. They were all too afraid. Henry and I were wide awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remember his goodnight kiss. The next morning we woke up to see snow outside our window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter at the top, and we could almost smell the mashed potatoes. The end. That's crazy. I don't think that I would like to live somewhere where food rained down from the sky, even if it was something super yummy like pie or ice cream. So I have a challenge for you guys today. In our story, the people had to build boats and houses out of leftover food that they had found. Looks like this. They had to build, boats out of peanut butter sandwiches and cheese and pizza sails. I want to see if you guys can use your imagination and draw some pictures where you use food to make normal things. So like they used pizza and cheese and bread and peanut butter to make a boat. What kind of food can you use to draw and make something normal? That's my challenge for you today. All right, friends, I will be back next week with another really good story for us to read together. Until then, have a great week. Bye.